Hi, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I see some of you already in the chat box. It's so nice to see you and nice to be here. It's been a really long week. I see some of you in the chat box saying it's been a bizarre week. That's Jessica J. I'm going to put you up on the screen here for just a second. It has been a bizarre week. I very much agree with that. I signed on just a minute early. Let me, as I always do, get to Instagram because they're not acting right again. I don't know what it is. That's like Instagram doesn't like me. So it yells at me every beginning of the live chat. As I get set up here, let me just kind of introduce the topic. This is a topic that I never like to have, or I never like to discuss. I should put it that way. Because who wants to have to accept that there is a such thing as a emotionally unavailable parent? Nobody wants to accept that. It's a hard reality, right? Because most parents are looked at in a positive way. Most parents are looked at as a support system, as a motivator and encourager, the kind of parent that is always there to support their child, no matter if it's a male or a female child. They are there to love and support, right? So nobody likes to talk about this topic, and I most certainly do not. I'm going to add a message to Instagram. I'm going to say, welcome to the chat, guys. Join us over at my channel. Glad to see you. Just letting them know we're good to go. All right, Instagram's all set up. So yeah, nobody likes to point out the negative aspects of the parent-child relationship. But what I want to talk about tonight is emotionally unavailable parents. And I want to kind of contrast them a little bit between emotionally detached parents and emotionally unavailable parents. There's a difference. A lot of people think they're the same thing. That isn't true. There's an intentionality to a certain extent to emotionally unavailable parents. There's somewhat of an intentionality, meaning it's an intentional thing for most parents who are unavailable. They would rather date than be present. Now we're talking about children, but then we're also talking about adult kids. But I'm just kind of laying out what a childhood looks like for an individual who feels like their parents unavailable emotionally. But the parent rather date than be with their child. They would rather dress however they want to dress, even if it's inappropriate, right? There are some parents come to sessions that I've had in the past. I have wonderful parents in my practice right now who see me for therapy just for their kids, and their kids see me for therapy. I have really great families now. But years ago, I did not. They were very difficult, very tumultuous relationships, very problematic. And believe it or not, some of the parents would not only visit the school districts or the schools of their kids, but they would come to therapy dressing however they wanted to dress because they felt comfortable. It was cleavage. It was a short pair of shorts or short skirt or something inappropriate. And it just screamed, it's all about me. I want to be the way that I want to be. I don't care how you perceive me. I don't care how I embarrass my child. I just want to be who I want to be. So there's that component of it. The emotionally unavailable parent could also be the father who would rather get high and drink alcohol multiple hours during the day than to sit down and have a conversation with his child, because what he wants to do is numb himself, right? Numb whatever pain he's going through, live it up and have fun. Feel like he's de-stressing, whatever the issue is. That is also an emotionally unavailable parent. I would rather numb myself, get high, get drunk, than to have to be a parent, than to have to be a father. So this happens for both mothers and fathers. It's not just the moms, but it's the dads as well. An emotionally unavailable parent may also be an individual who you go to them for love and compassion, security, understanding. You go to them saying, Mom, Dad, I really need you to help me make a decision here. I need you to really help guide me on this because I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no clarity as to where I'm supposed to be going. The parent that is available is supposed to say, yes, absolutely. Let's do whatever we can to get you where you need to be. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be confident. I want you to be secure and what's the word I'm looking for? Self-sufficient. That's the word. And an emotionally unavailable parent is not going to do that. They're going to say, okay, we'll get to you later. Let's talk about it Friday. Friday comes, let's talk about it Monday. Monday comes, we'll talk about it on Wednesday, Or the parent may say, yeah, we'll talk about it. Just come get me later. Well, you go to get your parent later, and guess what the parent's doing? Sleep, eating, dating, listening to music, right? In their bedroom with the door shut, unavailable, just gone. So to a certain extent, emotionally unavailable parents, there's an intentionality behind it. I'm intentionally putting you last. Not always, but sometimes that's really what it is. I'm putting you last. And I come first. Now, an emotionally detached parent can be the kind of parent who is unable, because of a mental health concern, because of a behavioral health problem, because of pure ignorance, because of a lack of desire to build a close connection with you as their adult child or adolescent. The emotionally detached parent is kind of the parent who kind of blindly moves forward in life. They don't really put their time and attention into things that matter the most. They tend to be very depressed sometimes, anxious, uncertain about their own lives and future, really hurt and confused by relationships, previous experiences. A lot of emotionally detached parents also tend to have a lot of trauma. So that's in there as well. So for emotionally detached parents, they tend to be a little less intentional, almost like a victim in some ways, right? Even though it negatively impacts you, and you are, for lack of a better term, the clear victim in the scenario, they are also kind of the victim, right? Because their emotional detachment isn't always intentional. I can't be the right parent that I need to be. The emotionally unavailable parent often makes the decision to be unavailable. I'm not accessible. I'm doing this instead. Or I'll tell you I'm going to do that and I do that instead. So I don't have to verbalize that I'm abandoning you at all. I'm just going to go over here and you'll be able to determine after a certain period of time, I'm not interested, right? So we do want to decipher between the two. Let me also say, for those of you who have grown up in a family where you weren't very attached to your parent, there's a huge void that is there. And it is often there because the parent-child relationship is one of the most important, the most significant relationship in the child's life. It is also the most important in terms of identifying how relationships are to be engaged in, identifying what is respectful and disrespectful, identifying those boundaries and what that looks like, identifying unconditional love and conditional love. There's also research that suggests that the same gender parent is one of the most important pieces to the puzzle. Right? So a father is extraordinarily important to the dad. A mother is extraordinarily important to her daughters. Research supports that theory that even though dad may be there for his daughters, the mother-daughter bond is the most significant. And when a daughter doesn't have their mother, it can be the most detrimental, confusing experience of their life. It can cause complex PTSD. And the same goes for males or sons who do not have their fathers. Sometimes mom can pick up the pieces like my mom has. My father left when I was really young, maybe 5, 6. He had a lot of issues himself, alcoholism. He was in the military, but he came back being really very strict. It was almost like he had obsessive compulsive personality disorder. He had to have things a certain way, had to have things clean, had to have things lined up a certain way, had to have things just absolutely the way he wanted it, or he would spaz out. And thankfully, my mom was such a protective mom that I didn't have to be a part of any of his spasms, if you will. I didn't have to be a part of his temper tantrums. But when I realized my dad wasn't around is when my mom said, look, he's not a healthy person and we have to separate. So thank God she was able to do that. But my brother, to my point here, my brother kind of suffered, my older brother, because he wanted his dad. He loved my mom, and my mom was able to say, you know what, kids, I'm all yours and you're all mine. And I'm going to be everything you need me to be as your mom. And she was that and more. However, my older brother struggled though. I think he struggled a lot. He's okay now as a dad of 3 kids and on his own. But growing up though, he didn't have that male influence. And I think he struggled and suffered as a result. Not having that same gender parent really made a difference in his life. Mom was everything, but for him, it wasn't. He needed dad. And I think I would be the same way, right? If my mom was, in the place of my father, I probably wouldn't be here today. So having that same gender parent is so significant sometimes. And having that mother, that love, compassion, tenderness of a mom, understanding, the emotional stability that most moms, good moms seem to have, that fighter mom, that mom that says, I'm going to be there for you if I need to lose sleep or go hungry or whatever. I'm going to make sure that you have that kind of unconditional love from a mom that can destroy a child that doesn't have that. So for those of you who feel like you have an emotionally unavailable or detached parent, I'm sure you're like, oh my God, I understand exactly what this means. It's a very, very hard reality. So I'm going to go to the chat box in just a little bit. Just to welcome you guys and read your comments and engage with you just a little bit, but we have a lot to talk about tonight. I do want to drop some terminology for you just before I go to the chat box, and I'm going to give you just briefly an overview of everything we're going to talk about tonight. The most important thing I want you to think about as we go along in this conversation tonight is that emotionally unavailable parents, the relationship is often destabilized. It's unstable. It's imbalanced. It's not a place where you can feel safe and secure. To say that a parent is emotionally unavailable is to say that you are not important to that parent. Even as an adult child, you're not important. You're always pushed to the back. And that can really leave you feeling empty and alone. There's a British psychiatrist, John Bowlby, and he did a lot of work on attachment theory and child development and how the parent-child relationship forms over time. And he says that the parent-child relationship is supposed to be a stable one where you can know for sure that you can go back to mom and dad and you can feel secure, you can feel loved, you can feel safe and protected, right? It's really hard to fight up against the world, right? This big, mean, bad world when you're little and you're innocent, right? And you're looking to mom and dad for emotional stability, for food, for basic needs being met. The list goes on. You're supposed to be a child that relies on that parent. You can always go back to that parent as a secure base. You can say to yourself, that's my mom, that's my dad, and I know that if I go over here, I can always go back to mom and dad and everything is going to be okay. If I venture across the street just to see what's over there, this is just an analogy, an example. If I go across the street just to explore and see what's going on over there, I know that I can always come back to my secure base, which is my mom and my dad. And Bowlby says that's a healthy relationship. You know, that's the way that it's supposed to be. It's two individuals, the child and the parent, two individuals in the relationship, really engaging in what we call joint attention, meaning that we're focused on the same thing. Have you ever seen a child play with their mom or play with dad? And joint attention is occurring when the child can kind of look at the parent and say, look at this that I'm playing with, right? Dad, look at this right here that I'm playing with. And dad says, oh, that's really neat. Did you see this part of it? This part comes out, that part goes in. You take the latch off this one. Did you see that? And the kid's talking to dad and they're having an interaction. That's called joint attention. We're focusing on the same thing together and we're sharing an experience. And Bowlby says that, you know, that joint attention doesn't happen. That familiarity, that secure base, that joint attention on the same thing doesn't happen when you have an emotionally unavailable parent. The parent could care less about what's going on in your world, what your needs are, what your desires are, what cool, interesting thing you learned today in school or at work. They don't care. The emotionally unavailable parent. That joint attention is gone. That familiarity is gone. That secure base doesn't exist. And there you are as an adult child, truly trying to understand the world as it is. And it can be very difficult because you never had a secure base, you know, guys? So throughout the rest of this live chat tonight, I'm going to break down the behaviors of an emotionally unavailable parent. So we're going to look at that. I'm also going to highlight some of the research. And then I also want to give you some insights and information on how this impacts you over time, because it can be a major impact on your life. Can it destroy you? No, I don't think it can destroy you. But will it make your life really difficult to live with the reality that you have an emotionally unavailable parent? Absolutely. I think it's going to make life really difficult. And you'll see why in a little bit. All right, guys, let me go to the chat box and see how you guys are doing. Engage you just a little bit. Sylvia Love Jones, hello, and welcome to tonight's live chat. I'm glad to see you. Glad to see you, Jessica J. I acknowledged you earlier, but I'm going to do it again. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Always glad to see you. Hope you're doing better. Starburst, hello and welcome. I just love that name. I don't know why it gives me joy to say it. Starburst. I love it. Jim and Vijin, hello. Welcome back, my friend. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. He says, he says, hi, Tam fam. I am excited to be able to make another session with you all. Hi, Tiara. I hope you have hope you're having a splendid day. Thank you so much. It was a tiring day, but you know, we made it to Friday, right? He goes on to say that I was raised by emotionally unavailable mother and father. Yes, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. It's a lot to get to, but we're going to break it down. Tammy Nicely, hello and welcome. Happy Friday to you. Glad to have you. Juby Joe, hello and welcome. Glad to have you back in tonight's live chat. Kay Jeanette, hello, welcome. Welcome back, Lemon Squeeze. That's another name I like, Lemon Squeeze. I like that. Odetta, hello and welcome. Glad to see you. Says, a couple of years ago, I realized I had to begin to reparent myself. Looking forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you, Tamara. Yes, you're welcome. And I do have live chats where I talked about reparenting yourself and what that entails. So I'll make sure that I post it in the description box when this goes off. That way you guys can have access to it. Dragon Man Sasson, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. I'm glad to see you as well. Hope you're doing okay. Gary Bennett, hello and welcome. Yes, thank you so much for that. Hope you're doing all right. Hope you're having a good weekend as well. Cherries Jubilee, hello, welcome, welcome. Glad to see you. Live life, glad to see you as well. Thank you so much for that. All right, I'm looking for comments. Kay Jeanette says, when you eventually have teen kids, I realized my parents did best. They did the best that they could. I'll put it that way, but wasn't good enough. They neglected us years ago. They were so uneducated, but they probably did better than their parents. Yes, we would call that transgenerational trauma or intergenerational trauma, meaning that maybe your parents' parents didn't do a very good job. They did the best they could, which caused some issues with your own parents. Hopefully you can stop it at your level, right? And you can say, you know what, we're not going to do it this way. You know, I can use many of my clients' situations that I'm treating now, where, as an example, where, a lot of them are doing okay as parents themselves, but did they have good parents? No. Did their parents have good parents? No. And did their parents have good parents? No. It's a intergenerational and transgenerational problem in most families. And here's an interesting piece of the puzzle. If we're talking about culturally, if we're talking about individuals who are of different races, cultures, ethnicities, it's interesting how you can look at the dynamics between the child and the parent, right? Native American families, Indian families, they have a different way that their families are. They tend to be very close-knit. The grandparents, especially in the Native American Apache tribe, which is a part of my own family, they tend to be very close with their kids, and the grandparents raise the kids for the most part. It's almost like mom and dad had you, but the grandparents are really the wise people who lead the family, through many years. I won't say generations, but many years. Asian, Korean families, same way. There's a difference in how close they are. There's a difference in how stable their parents and their parents' were. So there's a cultural and a racial and an ethnic element to this as well. But we would still call it transgenerational trauma or intergenerational trauma, especially if there's been generations of problems, right, when it comes to parents. Jeanette goes on to say that we have to heal ourselves to be better parents, but we will fail at times. Absolutely, because no one's perfect, right? But here's what I tell my clients. The fact that you are aware that there's an issue within the family dynamic is gold, right? Because once you can recognize the issue, then you can put some energy and motivation into shifting the issue, right? So that's the good part about that. Bryn, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Bryn McDonald, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. Says emotionally detached is the perfect term to describe my mom. Yes. Emotionally detached parents, in some situations, they're like children themselves. They're like children themselves. They say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, upset their own kids. Sometimes the parent and the child are crying at the same time. Sometimes the parent gets so upset that the child gets frustrated, and then guess what happens? Sometimes the parent and the child physically fight. Years ago, I had a client where, she would get so emotional, so angry, the daughter, so emotional, so angry, so bent out of shape, so vindictive, and just hostile, that her mother, in order to get her to just stop talking and arguing, her mother would literally jump on her and hold her down and restrain her. And all that girl would do would scream, curse, spit, whatever she could think to do to attack her mother. And it was hard to watch. Like, mom recorded it and showed it to me. And I told her, you've got to stop this behavior. This is bordering child abuse. Even though the young lady was 17, it's still child abuse. But what I noticed about emotionally detached mothers and fathers as well is that they often don't know what the boundary is. They will go and step over that boundary because they are immature and they tend to need a lot of help themselves. Savannah, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to see you. Says, when she hits me, she goes, well, stop provoking me. This was your fault. Yeah. And it sounds like maybe she's still doing that. That is horrible and awful. I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. I just think that is not the way to parent. And obviously there's issues there. There's displacement, meaning that somewhere she's probably displacing her anger, right? And then to place the blame on you kind of rids her of guilt. So makes sense. It's awful, but it makes sense. Saint Questions, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Says, wow, the timing of this can't be coincidence. Well, maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't. Marie B, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. I'm glad to see you. Cherry Jubilee says, betrayal trauma. Yep, I have a live chat that I did in the past on betrayal trauma. We will get into that. Yep. Louis S., hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Says, can reactive attachment disorder development from emotionally absent parents? I think you meant develop. So can reactive attachment disorder develop from emotionally absent parents? Yes. That's my short answer. I'm coming back to you. Sometimes I think they'll pass that emotional unavailability to their own children. Well, here's what's interesting. So for those of you who are not aware, reactive attachment disorder is often, it's known as RAD, R-A-D, and it's often a trauma-based diagnosis that is sometimes given. There's been a lot of critiquing of the term, critiquing of the criteria. Some professions really challenge the idea that there's a certain thing or such thing in the field. But reactive attachment disorder is usually given to kids who have been in and out of foster homes. They've been in and out of adoptive homes. They've been in and out of the child protective services system or the child welfare system. And, these individuals, it can be really difficult for them to receive love because they have issues with attachment. They don't know how to attach in a healthy manner. So sometimes these kids tend to be angry, hostile. They have a lot of conduct issues. They sometimes do the total reverse or opposite of what you would expect, right? So an example of this would be, let's say, for example, you adopt a child from a foster home and you feel that if I just love and nurture this child, give them everything that they need and desire, they will be happy and they will be my child and I will take care of them for however long I need to. You let the child come into your home, you buy them everything, you give them everything they want. There's safety, there's no corporal punishment or physical punishment or spankings or anything. You talk to the child, you give them love and affection, you take them everywhere they want to go, you put them in every sport they want to be in, and the child sees that as a complete threat. And so what do? They act out, they become physically aggressive, they're angry, hostile, mean, right? Reactive attachment disorder. Sometimes the child behaves in ways that's completely opposite to what you would expect. The more love that you sometimes try to give a child with RAD, the more they push you back. And that's really hard to deal with. The more love you give, the more you get hit. The more affection you get, sometimes the more physical, emotional, psychological aggression comes your way from that child. So to your question, Louis S., yes, emotionally absent or unavailable or even detached parents can create this scenario, right? Think about a child who's in the foster care system. The parent most likely was neglectful and unavailable. That's why the child's in the foster care system. So yes. That was my long-winded answer to your great question. Thank you for that. That was great. MNL Odell, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to see you. Says, I also feel, especially in the U.S., parenting isn't given enough support socially. The workplace here is brutal on the parent-child bond. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I think I said this earlier, culture has a lot to do with parenting. And so that's probably what you're getting at as well. Kay Jeanette, so nice of you, says hugs everyone. Yes, thank you for that. Same to you, Kay Jeanette. Mr. Ellipsis, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. You're the last comment before I go back to the content. Mr. Ellipsis says, I'm 10 minutes behind, but my ex has given up her child for her new man. I still her as my stepdaughter. I still see her as my stepdaughter, and she feels like I'm her real parent because both of her parents have given up on her. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's awful. That's awful. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes a step parent can step in and be that child's confidant, right? Because the biological parents strictly don't care. Not your responsibility, Mr. Ellipsis, but it sounds like you have a loving, caring heart and you're willing to be there. And that's fantastic. That's wonderful. Sorry about the situation, though. It's pretty despicable, if you ask me. One of the things I've noticed, let's get back into the content, guys. One of the things I've noticed with parents like this is that they absolutely do not care about their children, and they really don't care about you when you pass the age of 18. It's almost like Thank God you're 18. Goodbye. Glad to see you go, because I want nothing to do with you anymore. You're going to get a job. You're going to go to school. You're going to buy your own stuff. You're going to get your own car. You're going to get out of my life to a certain extent, because I want to live it up. I want to party. I want to be with men. I want to be with women. I want to do my own thing. And you're in the way. And I've seen parents like that, and my blood just boils, right? Because it's not a parent who gives their all to the child, or to you, even as the adult child. The parent doesn't give their all to you. It's not like they're giving their all and then they just need a break. No, it's, I'm not giving any of myself to you at all. You know, stay over there and just be you. I know I had you, but stay over there and do what you want to do. And some parents do that, right, guys? Before we get into what this kind of a parent actually looks like, some parents are like that, right? They totally have the child, clothe them, feed them, give them a place to sleep, but the child is running the streets or partying or sleeping around, or they may even be in a very bad situation at their friend's house. There's always something going on, and the parent is just very absent-minded. As the adult child, there may be a situation where you wish you just had a mom or a dad you could just call and talk to. You know, something bad happened at work today. Can I call my mom or my dad? Something bad happened between me and my spouse. Can I call you and talk to you about it? You know, we just had a natural disaster, a hurricane, a rainstorm, a snowstorm. Can we come stay with you? Emotionally unavailable parents are not there to be that kind of a parent to you as the adult child. So what are, I should say, the characteristics of an emotionally unavailable parent? The first thing that psychology highlights, and I've seen this, you know, in a pattern in all the research that I reviewed for this live chat tonight, is hostility, anger, and rage. Hostility, anger, and rage. It's almost like you're here and the parent doesn't really like that. So they snap with you, they argue, they're mean, they may curse you out. They just completely have this defense wall up. There's no room for you to just be a part of this parent's life because they push you out of it. You're out of my life, you're gone. I don't want anything to do with you. There's also what we call permissiveness, or in some cases, at least for children and teens, it may be titled gentle parenting. I like the concept of gentle parenting, but did you know that sometimes gentle parenting could be a parent that just doesn't want to have to keep telling the child not to behave a certain way, how to cooperate and be mannerable, how to do what they need to do in a way that's not going to affect other people. Some parents are like, oh, I'm just gentle. This is for little kids and teenagers. I'm just gentle parenting. No, you're not. You're letting your kids terrorize. And there's a difference between gentle parenting and, you know, really allowing kids to explore versus a parent who just lets their kids run around and terrorize and tear up things. There's a difference, right? Now, for adult children, which is likely you, those of you who are on here with me tonight, you may have had a parent growing up that was very permissive. They didn't sit with you and do homework. They don't sit with you now and talk about your problems. You call them and they talk to you like you're their parent rather than the reverse, right? And you may also experience what we call emotional incest, meaning that you are seen as the parent and the parent is taking the role of a child, and you are treated in a way that feels like you are coaching your own parent, supporting your own parent, showing the unconditional love that a parent would to their child when you're talking to your parent. You may also notice that if you're not put in the role of being their parent, you might be put in the role of being their spouse. That is also emotional incest, right? I'm going to talk to you like you are my husband. I'm going to talk to you like you are my wife. I'm going to make sure that I have a relationship with you that is not a parent-child relationship. It's a spouse relationship, or you're my parent kind of a thing, right? So you may be experiencing emotional incest, and maybe you experienced that growing up. Parentification is also another behavior that you are likely to see in this dynamic, right? You have an emotionally unavailable parent, they're going to parentify you. Go pick up your brother from school. He needs you. I'll meet you guys for dinner. You go pick up your brother, your mom calls you. This is just an example. This happened to me a couple years ago with a client. You go pick up your brother from school. You think, yeah, I'm going to go hang out with DJ later. I'm just going to drop you off at home. Mom calls you and says, oh, you know what? Dinner's going to be late. Can you take him to go get something to eat? And then can you go past Target and pick up his clothes? I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to buy. So you take him to go get food. You go to Target, then you realize you're low on gas. You got to go fill the gas tank up. And then guess what? Mom calls you back. Can you drop by the grocery store? What's happening there, right? Emotional incest. You're now serving a role that doesn't belong to you. You're being kind of forced into that role. So this is a dynamic that can happen with an emotionally, unavailable parent. The parent says, you know what, I'm going to check out. Or, the parent says, I'm overwhelmed today, so I'm just going to ask my son to go do these errands for me. And sometimes parents need help, right? But other times it's emotional incest. It's very unhealthy. You may also have a parent that displays a lot of unresolved challenges and a lot of unresolved mental health problems. And it kind of falls into your life, right? You have a parent that's hearing or seeing things that's not there. They tend to be very obsessive, argumentative, hostile, mean, reactive, impulsive, if I didn't already say that, inattentive, they're disinterested, right? And sometimes that can fall over into your life where now you have to kind of carry the parent. You may feel like the parent's a burden to you, right? They're emotionally checked out. You are the one putting up all the energy, and that can be really tiring, right? You may also experience just pure abandonment, right? Sometimes that parent who's emotionally unavailable, they don't care to hear about what you're going through. They don't care to live in the same state as you, or at least live near you. They don't want anything to do with your life. If you stop calling them, they're going to stop talking to you because they really don't feel the need to reach out. My maternal grandfather, so my mom's father, my uncle's father, was basically this way. It felt like abandonment because what he did is, I'll share this with you because I think it's therapeutic. What he did when my mother was an adolescent, she might have been like 18, 19, 20, somewhere around in there. He had an affair. He had an affair on my grandmother. My grandmother she was wonderful. She's my late grandma. She was wonderful. But the issue was her alcoholism. And I truly believe that was a turnoff for my grandfather. So he ended up having an affair. Instead of just doing the right thing, just divorce her. He had grounds to divorce her, but he just didn't do that. He decided to be sneaky and go behind her back. And, he had an affair, got into a relationship with this new woman, took on her children as his own, and then they had one child together. But what I noticed over many years, and I think my cousins can also vouch for this as well, that we didn't really have a grandfather. Why? Because it was almost like, and my mother and my uncle didn't have a father, because it was almost like my grandfather said, you know what? I'm emotionally unavailable to you guys because I'm putting so much of my emotional energy over here. So I'm putting my emotional energy into my new family. So therefore, you guys are probably going to feel slighted. And it felt like we were slighted, my cousins and I think we could very much agree on that it almost felt like emotional abandonment. And I know my mom and her brother can agree to that as well. So there is going to be abandonment with these kind of parents. They don't know how to give of themselves emotionally to you. And if they develop, like my grandfather did, a whole new family, you can just forget about it. Your history, right? So that's a part of this puzzle. And lastly, let me also say, with these kind of parents, you are likely to see what we call numbing behaviors. They're constantly looking for a way to just check out, zone out, dissociate, detach. They don't want to be a part of life and reality. They don't see the point in being that way. So what do? They check out. I'm going to drink, so many glasses of alcohol, so many beers, so many glasses of wine until I can't think straight, until I'm ready to go to bed. I'm going to smoke a lot of dope until I'm ready to, go to the next thing. And it's like staying in this world of fog. They're numbing themselves, so they can't be available to you. They don't intend to be in the first place. But what separates them from you is all their attempts to stay numb, to stay dissociated, to stay detached, right? Those of you who are in the chat box, which I'm going to go there in just a little bit here, I'm sure that you have put some comments in the chat box about how detached your parent has been and what that looks like. It could be drugs. It could be alcohol. It could be other relationships, women, men. It could be going to the casino every month, gambling every day. It could be just sitting outside, gossiping with the neighbors. It could be anything. And the emotionally unavailable parent, they do this on a repetitive cycle, and even though the behavior may not be detrimental in and of itself. For example, sitting out and gossiping with the neighbors. That's not really detrimental. But what is that it happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then it starts over again. And then guess what? It continues for many years to a place where you felt abandoned, or you feel abandoned because mom always sat outside and talked to the neighbors, never came in and helped me do anything, never called me, never texted me, never engaged in a deep conversation with me. Why? She was always sociable, always. So that's the issue here, right? The behavior may not necessarily be bad, but the repetitive cyclic nature of the behavior is the problem. So what does research say? I'm going to go over this before I go back to the chat box. What does research say about emotionally unavailable parents? Well, let's start with a concept that's known as structuring. Structuring. Some research, and I'm going to make sure I post it in the description box so you can click on the links and go and check some of this out for yourself. But some research in psychology on child development highlights that parents have to have what's known as structuring abilities. Structuring abilities. It's the ability to help you as an adult child, but mainly as a child, to help you develop and expand your own knowledge, your own independence, your own autonomy. And it's really helping you learn how to navigate the world and how to do so in a confident, independent way. If your parent is checked out and numb all the time and detached and disassociated, how can you have that parent help you understand your independence, your autonomy, your freedom, knowledge, things that you should know? How do you grow if you don't have somebody there to say, I'm going to make sure that your experiences are within these guidelines as much as I can so that you can be free and be safe and feel okay exploring life? You can't do that, right? An example of this, I'll give you an example. One of my clients years ago, she's no longer with me, graduated therapy, but one of my clients felt really alone when they were getting married. They felt really alone. Mom was not there to structure situations when she was a young child that could help her develop the social skills that she needed. So mom never set up play dates. Mom never took her outside to play with the kids in the neighborhood. Mom never took her to any sporting events or didn't put her in dance, gymnastics, nothing. Mom kind of kept her isolated from the world. So she was not able to provide the structure that was needed to help her daughter develop social skills. Does that make sense, guys? So structuring abilities, she didn't have that. So she didn't help her daughter develop the social skills that she would need later in life. Once her daughter became an adult and decided to get married, she then started struggling with social anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. She really was having a hard time separating from her husband when they had to go to work every day, almost like a grown-up separation anxiety disorder. She found connecting with other people really awkward, really difficult, because mom never supported her autonomy, her independence, her ability to test the waters. Mom was never really there. So her checked out, emotionally unavailable mom didn't provide those opportunities. And so now she, became an adult, and life was just that much more complicated for her, right? So research suggests that, this can be very impactful for your life in a negative way, not having parents who have structuring abilities. The other part of research says that most of these parents tend to be very intrusive. They don't give you the freedom to have your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Everything that you do has to be within the bounds or the confines of what they want. If you exceed that or go outside of that, you're the devil. Or if you exceed that or go outside of that, now you're going against them. Or now you're being unhealthy, or something is not to their level of expectation for you, right? So you may feel rejected. So research suggests that these kind of parents lack what's called non-intrusiveness. They tend to be very intrusive. There is also, according to research, what we call a bi-directional influence. Let me show you what this looks like. And I'm not going to do a whole diagram. I'm just going to show you what a bi-directional influence looks like, so that you can have a little bit of a visual. So a bi-directional influence, bi-directional, if I can spell, a bi-directional influence looks this way. This is the only way that I can kind of show this to you. Hold on, guys. Okay, here's a bi-directional influence. The parent, okay, influences the child. Oh, God. Come on, camera. There we go. The parent influences the child. Ooh, this is having a hard time focusing. And the child influences the parent. Ooh, I don't know why my camera is going in and out like that. That's horrible. That is awful. My goodness. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. Let me see if I can get my camera to come back. But what's interesting, here we go. But what's interesting about a bi-directional influence is this, that mom and child, dad and child influence each other. And mom gets angry and the child gets angry. And mom's anger triggers the child's anger. And so they're both triggering each other. And so research suggests that because of that bi-directional influence, the parent may emotionally disengage or dissociate so that they don't have to deal with that, right? So that they don't have to be triggered. And then the child may also avoid certain things because they don't want to be triggered as well. So there's a bi-directional influence. I hope that makes sense. And lastly, in this category, before I go to the chat box, I do have to mention that having a parent that's emotionally unavailable to you, and you are an adult child in this big world trying to live and make a living and really create a safe spot for you in this world to just thrive and live, being an adult child with a parent who is emotionally disengaged or unavailable can really leave a lot of scars, especially if you have those scars from childhood. Now you have more scars as an adult because life gets harder as we get older, right? Things change, commitments change, age changes us, right? Just life constantly shifts. And to have an emotionally unavailable parent can trigger not only a stress response, but can also trigger a lot of health conditions in yourself, a lot of mental health conditions, right? And it can also trigger a lot of ideas around wanting to estrange from that parent. And research suggests that family estrangement, right, the child walking away from the parent, is more common than it ever has been, because of all the things that we're discussing in this live chat. Now, I'm going to go to the chat box, but when I come back, I'm going to give you some insights before we wrap up on how this impacts you, because it can have a great impact. Okay. Jim and Vijin says, I never felt safe or secure growing up in my family. It has negatively impacted me and the way I see myself, others, and the world. Yes, and that is the major impact. There's a lot of personal insight that most children or adult children miss when a parent is emotionally unavailable. It's hard to see yourself sometimes, right? It's just hard to see yourself, period. Sometimes a parent can be that mirror, they can put that mirror up to you. My mom does it to me all the time. What do you think that means, Tamara? Or if I'll go to her, I'll just say in passing to her, I just had this migraine for days and I don't feel good. I don't want to go to work. I just feel drained. I feel exhausted. And my mom will hold up that mirror and she'll say, what do you think that's telling you? And I'm like, okay, that is the easiest question in the world, but it makes a lot of sense. Why? Because maybe I'm burning out. Maybe I'm tired. And then it clicks. Oh, maybe I need to take this weekend off, right? So parents are supposed to be there to hold that mirror up to us. So Jim and Jen, it's interesting that you say that, because that's one of the things that research in this area in psychology highlights, that it really shifts the way the emotionally unavailable parent shifts the way that you see yourself and the world around you. Yes, McDonald, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that's wonderful. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to put that up on the screen so everybody else can see it. Jeremy Robinson, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Thank you so much for responding to Jim and VJ. That's so kind of you. Give it a think. Hello and welcome back tonight. Glad to see you. Says, if I did not feel safe, protected, content, according to my mother, it was because I was intrinsically broken. My father could not have cared less. Yes. Sometimes blame, I'll put it that way. Blame is part of the emotionally unavailable parent, right? Sometimes they can't see all the damage they're doing. They can't see all the damage they've caused or the damage they are causing, but they will be the first to point out that you are doing something wrong, right? They don't have emotionally unavailable parents, especially the ones that I've dealt with, do not have personal insight. Why? Because number one, they're too immature. Number two, they don't take the time to process how they're impacting other people. Number three, they may actually have a personality disorder. Most emotionally unavailable parents have unresolved bipolar disorder, have unresolved borderline personality or narcissistic personality, or they have a trauma history themselves and they really don't know how to manage it, right? So there's things going on here with the parent that's not easy to see with the eye. There's a lot of internalized issues going on, They're very behind as well, very behind in their maturity and development. Roman T, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome. Says so well versed. I love hearing your beautiful spirit speak. Thank you so much for that. That's so humbling. Thank you. That's so nice. Yes, you're welcome, Jim and VJ. Yeah. Cherry's Jubilee says Tam Fam is the best, right? I've just been blessed with so many of you. You guys are wonderful. So glad to have you. Access to Rome, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. Glad you could join us as well. Don 1, hello and welcome. I was looking for you because I know you've shared this before. Don 1 says, my mother laughed at me let me try this again. My mother laughed at me sadistically. I'm going to put it that way, Don 1, while I explained how horrible it was as a child. Right. Absolutely. The last thing that you want to do with a parent that's emotionally unavailable is say to them, you know what? You were the worst parent ever. Why? Number one, they don't care, right? They're emotionally unavailable for a reason. Number two, they don't have personal insight. So when you say you weren't a good parent, they're either going to laugh, chuckle, turn it into a joke, or they're going to minimize you in some fashion, right? They don't have personal insight, and some of them strictly just don't care. Colibri Flyer, hello and welcome. Glad to see you back in tonight's live chat. Says, major narc sister checked on me the other day. If I'm okay. I felt that she was spying for my other two estranged siblings. Yeah, she could have been. I blocked them all. I know it's going to be isolating and lonely. It's temporary. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. If you feel that she was kind of like poking around just to get some information, just to kind of gossip, Maybe spying isn't the right word. Maybe you mean like just kind of trying to get details and information. Maybe you meant, just trying to get some details that she could run back to your sisters with or your family. Either way, it's an ugly thing, right? And sometimes you do have to put an end to it. Starburst said, I had to stop sweeping real quick and get in the chat. Yes, I parent my mom, shaking my head. Yeah, absolutely. Ah, that's awful. When you parent your parent, isn't that a lonely place to be for those of you who know what I mean by that? Who wants to parent their parent? When my mom is sick, I'm there. When my mom needs support, I'm there. When someone treats my mom like she's less than, I step right up. Excuse me, who are you talking to? Let's try that again. Right? So I'm very protective. But do I parent my mom? Absolutely not. My mom is here. And no matter how old I get, pushing 40, I'm here. Why? Mom is here, and some of that is cultural too. But nobody wants to parent their parent, right? It takes something from you. When you parent your parent, it takes something from you. It's like you're being robbed, right? You're being burglarized, for lack of a clinical term. You're not given the ability to just be the child, no matter how old you get. One thing I loved about the Golden Girls, do you guys remember the Golden Girls? Am I aging myself? I might be. I don't know. The Golden Girls, loved them. Watched them like I was addicted to the Golden Girls. I can't remember the little granny, the little Italian spicy mom. And she was the mom to the really tall Golden Girl. I can't remember her name now. It's leaving me. But what I always liked about their dynamic, and this is just an example for you to conceptualize what I'm saying to you. The daughter, no matter how old she was, she had gray hair, she was taller than her mom, she had a certain energy and motivation about her. But that little sweet Italian woman was still her mother. No matter how tall that daughter was, no matter how strong that daughter was, and even the daughter had white hair, okay, white hair like Santa Claus, that was still her short, loving Italian spicy mom. And mom had that energy that said, I'm your mother no matter what, right? So parents are always supposed to be the parent no matter what. When you parent your parent, you are being robbed. And that's what I tell my clients all the time. Can you change that? Most likely you can't. But that's where reparenting comes in. That's where being the parent that you never had comes in. And we can get to that in another live chat. Cherry's Jubilee says, a bad childhood is no excuse. We had bad ones and didn't decide to abuse. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you don't decide to abuse, and that's a wonderful thing. Angel Warrior, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Angel Warrior says, I'm just going to put what she says up on the screen for you. Okay, I'm looking for comments. Angel Warrior says, my mother told me at my graduation party in front of everyone that I had to get out. I was already making my exit because of her abuse and alcoholism. I bought my first real estate property condo. Wow, congratulations to you. I don't know if that's now or years ago, but congratulations. That's wonderful when you can take that step of independence, right? It almost makes you wonder, and my mom went through this with her own mother. It almost makes you wonder, are you drinking because you feel inadequate? Are you drinking because you're just that addicted to alcohol? Or are you drinking because all of this is too much? You don't feel like you played a role. There's some insecurity there, maybe some envy, maybe some jealousy. What's going on here? Why do you choose this opportunity to get drunk? Right? Or is it just the simple fact that you can't handle your liquor, your alcohol, your beer, your wine, and you just lose touch with yourself? Whatever the case, it's a lack of responsibility and it's painful, right? NNL Odell says, when you have parents just basically abandoning, oh my God, I'm sorry guys, abandoning their kids, I kind of wonder about sociopathy. Can't imagine being able to walk away otherwise. Well, absolutely. Sociopathy, I mean, there's many reasons, right? Sociopathy, not really wanting to be a parent, being detached, and not really understanding the role of a parent. Some parents have kids, and I think I said this week on my channel. Oh geez, what is going on there? Hold on, guys. YouTube just sent me a message. I don't get that. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there. Okay, but let me make sure that I don't have two live chats going at the same time. But how's that possible, guys? I don't think it is.
Where's the most convenient place to get
Sorry.
fitness energy?
I don't know what's going on, but hopefully you guys are okay. You can see me, you can hear me. We're just gonna keep going. I think I was saying that sometimes there's many reasons for why a parent can kind of just walk away, right? Sometimes it is sociopathy. Sometimes it's just, I don't know how to be a parent, right? I may have said this this week on my channel in passing, talking about other things, but some parents just should not be parents. You know, does most women want to have children and be a mom? Yes, most do, and they really have a hard time when they can't have children or bring children into the world, or they can't adopt. But there are some parents that just simply should not be parents. You shouldn't be a dad, and you shouldn't be a mom. And it's not always the hitting, abusive parents. Sometimes it's those permissive parents, those parents who let their kids run all over other people, who let their kids terrorize and disregard other people's property and space. Sometimes it's those parents who just simply can't step up and set the right boundaries, the right structure, the right parenting, the right rules, right? Some parents just shouldn't be parents. And sometimes the ones who become parents are sociopaths, and that makes it easy for them to walk away. I hope that answered your question, your comment. I think it was a very good comment. Thank you for that. I don't ever remember seeing you, so welcome, welcome. I think it's May Eve. Hopefully that's correct. Welcome. Says, my mother reached out to me because of Milton. She didn't care when I was in a homeless shelter, but a major life-threatening situation. No one else reached out, and I'm a middle child of 5. Wow. They go on to say, I'm never going back home. Yeah, that's really sad. I'm so sorry that you're going through that. Say that I'm a middle child of 5. It reminds me of birth order. You know, the psychology of birth order. The eldest child feels one way. I'm a middle child, and I don't really take on the characteristics of a middle child. I actually could be seen as the younger child in a sense, as I was the favorite. Hopefully my brothers are not watching, but I really was the favorite with my mother and my grandmother in terms of being pampered and spoiled and supported and loved, you know. But, you know, your statement reminds me of birth order. And sometimes that can make all the difference in how detached and unavailable your parent is, right? Even as an adult child. My older brother, I feel like, you know, there's been some pieces of my mom's raising of him that could have been better, but she was so young at the time. She had him when she was 18. She was so young at the time that I don't think she was really mature enough to have him and to raise him. So there's some areas there that I think contributed negatively to him in some ways. Did she love him unconditionally? 100%. I saw that. I can look at the videos from back then and see that, but and photos. But as you're pointing out, sometimes depending on where you're born, or sometimes that birth order can really dictate how much you get from that parent, you know? It really can. And sometimes younger kids tend to get the bad end of the deal sometimes, because sometimes the parents are just that tired and they give up and they say, you know what, you're my last child, do whatever you want to do. If you want to play video games all day, go right on ahead. I'm tired, right? So birth order has a big impact on this as well. Again, I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Okay, 2 more comments, guys, before I give you the last part of the content here. Sizzle 74, that's so cute. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. Says, I tried for over a year to develop a relationship with my dad without my mom around after her death. Oh, yeah. I learned that he is a narcissist that I cannot have a relationship with. She goes on and says, he and my sisters can live happily ever all together in their dysfunction. Sometimes that's how it goes, right? There's just a nice little ball of chaos. Go right on ahead. I want to go back to what you're saying here for just a second. You said, I learned that he is a narcissist that I cannot have a relationship with. Absolutely. Sometimes if you have an emotionally detached or unavailable parent that's a narcissist, you're really in for it, right? Because number one, they're emotionally detached and unavailable for a reason. Number two, they've got to me, one of the most emotionally checked out diagnoses that you can have, and it's going to be hard to navigate life with them because what you think may trigger them, affect them, push them, motivate them, change them is not what you think. It's not what you think. It makes everything a lot more difficult, doesn't it? Having a parent that's a narcissist. One last comment. Excuse me, guys. One last comment before I go back to the content and give you the last part of this. Juby Joe says, started working at 12 years old, small town burger place, bought clothes and some food, given a car at 15 and bought everything I needed. Worked at truck stop restaurant on the weekends. Good for you, girl. So happy for you. Because here's what you're saying. You're saying, I'm going to be independent. And I'm going to add to the scenario kind of what I'm seeing that you're not saying, that this emotionally unavailable parent was not there. You jumped in, had to do what you had to do, had to make a living for yourself, provide some stability. That's sad because it shouldn't be that way, right? But it was, and it sounds like you did a really good job in supporting yourself. Sometimes you have to, right? It still doesn't erase, though, that was so unfair to you. So unfair. Okay, guys, let's get back into the content so we can wrap up here in a little bit. So how does this impact you? The number one thing psychology says is there's a lot of emotional and social loneliness that happens. Let me explain what that actually is. Social loneliness says, or basically shows, I'll put it that way. Social loneliness shows that you are actually in the presence of people and you may be around them day in and day out, but you're still lonely on the inside, right? So you feel lonely even in the midst of all of these people. Emotional loneliness is, okay, I'm living my life, I'm doing everything I need to do, but I feel so all alone emotionally. I feel like I'm this black hole, like I'm not seen. I don't feel seen. I love how some of you say on my channel here in the chat box, I feel seen. Thank you for seeing me, Well, it could be the total opposite when you have a parent like this. As an adult child, you have that social loneliness. I'm lonely at the core of who I am, even though I'm around tons of people. And you also have that emotional loneliness. You can have that emotional loneliness that I just feel dark. I feel hidden. I feel like this nebulous creature in the universe, right? I'm just going through the daily motions, doing what I need to do, being around people, and yet I still feel invisible, The other thing is epigenetics. I'll put it that way. Epigenetics, that kind of plays a role into this as well. You can actually inherit trauma genetically. Having a parent who is checked out, dissociating, detached, emotionally unavailable can actually trigger certain parts of the brain. And it can trigger what we call the pituitary gland. I'm going to break this up because I don't want to go into this full scientific example. But all of the stress that comes with an emotionally unavailable parent can actually trigger the pituitary gland. When the pituitary gland, which is like a little pea-sized structure in the brain, when it starts releasing what we call stress hormone or cortisol, then we become stressed and overwhelmed, and then we go right into fight or flight mode. And we can stay in that mode for hours, days, months, and years. That's why some people who have complex PTSD, which is kind of known as the relationship trauma, or the relationship trauma label. If you say I have complex PTSD, it's most likely because of a relationship, family, or other kind of relationship. So where was I, guys? I totally lost my train of thought there. I think I was trying to explain that the pituitary gland, once it releases cortisol and the stress response happens and you go into fight or flight mode, you can stay stuck in that mode for many, many years, especially if you are still in a relationship with your parents. So if you haven't gone no contact and you're still in the life of that unavailable parent, that emotionally unavailable parent, it can just trigger fight and flight mode constantly. And you may feel like your body is just constantly just running like a car engine. There's no calm, right? So you can have chemical changes just being around this kind of a parent. There's also a lack of a cultivating relationship with these parents. A relationship between a child and a parent, an adolescent and a parent, adult child and a parent should always be one that is cultivating, right? The parent should always be there in a equal relationship where you guys are cultivating a connection, cultivating respect, cultivating equality, mutuality, reciprocity, right? But when you don't have an emotionally available parent, they are detached and unavailable, you don't have that cultivating relationship. So there's a lack of that. You may also notice high reactivity in your family or a high conflict personality in that emotionally unavailable parent. God, that's like saying, 900 words at the same time. It's hard to get it all out. But if you have an emotionally unavailable parent, it's likely that they are also high conflict and they are highly reactive. They always want to fight, always want to argue, always want to defend, right? That's a possibility. And I see that a lot in my practice. You may also have social skills deficits, right? The parent-child relationship is the most important relationship in the world, right? When you lose that, a trusting, loving adult relationship, that can impact you. And you can become an adult with social skills deficits. That's a possibility. There may also be this unwavering mischaracterization of you. Unwavering mischaracterization of you. The parent can mischaracter you, can misunderstand you, can label you something. Why? Because they don't want to have the responsibility of being your parent. They don't want to have the responsibility of being there for you. So what do? They say you're immature, you're incompetent, you're the problem, you have borderline personality disorder, you're the narcissist, you're the one inflicting the pain, you're the one doing the damage, right? So sometimes they develop these kind of parents, they develop this unwavering mischaracterization of you. And it really is delusional. We're going to talk a little bit about that tomorrow as well. There may be displaced or misplaced anger and hostility. There may be poor interpersonal or relationship communication between the two of you. And you may also find yourself or find this kind of a parent, I'll put it this way, you may find this kind of a parent vacillating between their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. They're very undecided, very uncertain. They lack personal insight. So there's constant vacillation, between their fantasy and reality. Sometimes these kind of parents are just stuck in their mind. They live in a fantasy. This is a lot, right, guys? It's a lot to take in. And if you have had an experience with a parent like this, you most likely know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Let me know in the comment section below in the chat box what you think of this. I'm going to go back to the chat box so that we can wrap up. Tomorrow, I'm going to be discussing narcissistic parents and how delusional they can be. And we're not just talking about delusional disorder. We're talking about the narcissist who really lives in a fantasy. And they truly believe that the way they see reality is the way it is, and it is not. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. I hope you can join me. Odetta says, oh my God, my sister who is a therapist without a therapist is doing the emotional incest with her narcissistic daughter. My sister becomes the child, the daughter becomes the parent. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Let me just also say, just because someone is labeled a therapist and they're smart enough to get through school doesn't mean they're a real therapist. So I just want to throw that out there. I think a lot of people hear the word therapist, and they're like, really, a therapist? Well, I have a lot of colleagues I look at sometimes and I'm like, wrong field. Wrong field. Freddie Tukes. Oh my God, that is such a funny screen name. Hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Glad to see you. Jeremy Robinson. Jeremy Robinson says, my mom and stepfather is like that. They trauma dump. Yeah, there you go. They trauma dump. That's a good word. All of their issues on us from their childhood to their marriage, they come to us to complain. Yep. Trauma dumping is common. It's common. I see that in some sessions that I've had in the past with clients from the last couple of years, and I'm like, oh my God, don't say that. Don't do that. It's okay to share. It's okay to self-disclose like I do sometimes. It can actually be very therapeutic. And I do that with you guys on here too. It's also okay to say, this is what happened to mom. And it really had an impact on me. Okay, that's normal. But if you're taking all of the trauma and you're literally saying, here, carry this, and the parent is asking you to carry the burden, whether it's direct or indirect, that's a lot. That is definitely trauma dumping. MomTube, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to see you. Yeah, blessings to you as well. Thank you for that. Okay, Danny, Bethia, Brahma. I know I messed that up. Forgive me. Hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. I don't remember seeing you before, so welcome. Glad to have you. Okay, just looking for comments. I don't want to miss you guys. Kat, hello and welcome. Glad to have you, and thank you so much for that kind comment. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll post where I got them. That's so nice. Thank you. Angela, Ava, hello and welcome. Yes, thank you for that. Yes. You guys are wonderful too. You guys heal each other. I see that when I play these over and I go back and I look at the chat box. You guys heal each other, whether you realize it or not. I think it's wonderful. Wifey, hello and welcome. My brother used to call his wife that all the time. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Says, I have not spoken to my mom in years. It's crazy. As I'm her only child, I finally realized that she has always been the problem, not me. Yeah, sometimes it takes years before you can get to that reality, right? Tammy Nicely says, did I welcome you, Tammy? I think I did. Tammy Nicely says, I was that parentified child, taking on multiple chores and tending to the two younger siblings. I couldn't just be a child myself or a teen. Yeah. It steals your childhood, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels wrong. A seat at the King's table with Tanisha. So glad to see you. Welcome back. Glad to have you. I haven't seen you in a little while. Says, I'm just realizing this about my parents, and it's very disheartening and even worse to think you had a normal childhood when really you lacked, and it was not normal at all. That is trauma, right? Being able to go back in your mind. This is why therapy with a good therapist is so important, right? Because when you sit in front of a total stranger that you develop a loving, caring, compassionate, trusting relationship with over a series of sessions. That's what happens with me and many of the families that I see in the kids, in the teenagers. Once that therapeutic rapport is built and that therapeutic relationship is solid, like this, then you can start opening those doors. And the therapist, as I've done for some of my clients who are dealing with this, the therapist can step into those doors and say, you know what? That right there wasn't normal. That was inappropriate. That was not your burden to bear. No, you weren't supposed to be in that position. That was the responsibility of your mom. Nope, don't feel guilty about that at all because A, B, and C, right? This is why having a very good therapist is key, because they can go through your life journey with you growing up and show you that what happened to you was not okay. When it's just you looking at your life story, your narrative, it seems okay until you start uncovering things, right? And opening doors, and then things change. So I totally get where you're coming from. Totally. Ellie Wynn, hello. So glad to see you. Yes, glad to have you listening in. Okay, I'm just looking for people so that I'm not leaving you guys out. Then we're going to wrap up here in 2 minutes. KD, hello and welcome back. Always glad to see you. Says, yes, at Angel Warrior, I had a similar moment thinking stroke or something traumatic, painful, and deception, the betrayal. Whew. Ooh, I'm not getting that sentence. I think you're talking to Angel Warrior. Yeah, you guys are talking about something totally different. I'm sorry. But welcome to the chat, KD. So glad to see you. Sarah Woodward, hello. Welcome, welcome. I have colleagues and friends in the UK. I'm like ready to move to the UK. I'm not, but I'm ready to move there. Welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. KC Speaks Truth. Hello and welcome. Glad that you were able to catch me as well in a live chat. Glad to have you. Okay, guys, I think I got, nope, I didn't nearly get as many of you as I thought. Just Kendra, hello and welcome. Didn't want to leave you out. Says, I parent my mom as well, just sitting down for the day. Yeah. S. Jones, hello and welcome. Don't remember seeing you, so welcome. Strawberry Cream. Why do you guys have the best screen names ever on YouTube? These are so cute. Strawberry Cream, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. To bless, to be stressed, hello and welcome back. Glad to see you as well. Mahala Graham, hello and welcome. Thank you for that. Sounds like this is hitting home. The nurse who loved me, 89, hello and welcome. Says, oh, I'm sorry. It looks like you're saying part 2. So I missed your first comment. I'm so sorry. I don't know where your other comment is. I'm sorry. The nurse who loved me. I can't find the other comment. I'm sorry. But I'm still glad you're here. Welcome. Just know I see you. I see you. Nitra. Okay. Let's try this again. Night Radio Archive. I think I got it that time. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you back. Says, I heard you mention the word structuring. Could you explain that more? I think I heard you say that emotionally unavailable parents do not have structuring ability. They do not have structuring ability. They don't know how to kind of provide a safe space or realm. They don't know how to structure different experiences in your life to where you can explore independently, grow, feel safe, feel loved, feel cared about, because they're absent. They're emotionally absent. So they don't have structuring abilities. They're void of that, I should say. And they don't have that relationship with you where they can step back and let you take the lead and let you grow and explore life in a safe way. I will post the article in the description box that talks a little bit about structuring. Okay, that way you can get a little bit more information on that. Just Janet, hello and welcome with the lovely curls. I see you in the photo. Glad to have you tonight. Says, my mother always laughed at me and said, you can't teach me anything. Wow. Ooh, that was a confession. Ooh, that would have went all through me. Oh my God. Ruby Cubez, I hope I said that correctly. Welcome, welcome. We're going to sign off here in literally 2 minutes. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Says, my mother was also emotionally immature, but she was the type to publicly pride herself on being super compassionate and humble. It was very infuriating, especially since I was so highly sensitive. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Let me suggest a book for you guys, and many of you probably have it. I don't think I have it here at home. It's probably in my office. It is, let me see if I can pull it up for you guys so I can give you the right title. I'm going to suggest this book for you by Lindsay. Hold on, guys. So the book is emotionally... I'm trying to get it here so I can give you the correct name. It's Adult Children of Emotionally Detached Parents. Adult Children of Emotionally Detached Parents with Lindsay Gibson, my coworker. And I call her my coworker because we were at an event back in March, where we were promoting both of our books with our publishing company. And she was great to talk with and just, kind of get to know on a personal face-to-face basis rather than just knowing her as the author of a book. But she's really good. She has new books out. She has a book called Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents, Self-Care for Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, right? So these are really good. I would actually go to New Harbinger Publications, newharbinger.com. I would go to newharbinger.com and just look up her name, and there you will find her. And you can get her book. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Let's end, okay? I don't want to keep saying we're going to be done in 2 minutes, and I keep chatting away. So thank you so much for being with me tonight. I hope this was very helpful and insightful for you. Join me tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk about the narcissistic parent. Okay, and I want to be able to give you some information on, how to navigate them correctly, how to see them. And I also want to tease apart how very in a fantasy they tend to be. They tend to be very much stuck in a fantasy land. And it's not easy to see with the naked eye. You really have to have some insights that are clinical and knowledgeable. So join me tomorrow. I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. I look forward to possibly seeing you tomorrow. Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.